Vietnam as a refugee myself. And so, I've always had an affinity with the Catalysr program, and it's such wonderful work that Usman and Dev are doing. I've sought to contribute whenever I can. I'm the partner and co-founder of a venture capital fund that's actually based in Singapore, and so I fly back and forth between Sydney and Singapore. And I used to spend 2 weeks in Singapore, 2 weeks in Sydney of every month, and now it's more like 1 week in Singapore, 3 weeks in Sydney, and my family is in Sydney, so it's much more manageable. Our current fund is a $100 million fund that invests in data, SaaS, AI, mostly B2B startups. We mainly invest in Southeast Asia, but we have some investments in Australia as well. Bright, which is a solar financing business, for example, is a portfolio company of ours. Another company called Curious Thing, which is a voice AI company based in Sydney, is also a company of ours in Australia. I've been teaching mindfulness, for I guess roughly 15 years now, and over the last 5 years or so, I've been working with cohorts of 3 founders for 3 months. And I've done that for the last 5 years in a row now. I've just actually stopped doing that teaching to take a sabbatical from teaching. And in that work, I do sort of deep, advanced mindfulness work with those founders specifically who have been sort of in practice for roughly a few years before we start to do the work together. And we go a lot deeper in that work to help them I hold the space for them to unpack aspects of themselves that they want to sort of have the conversations with themselves about, such as the critic that's inside, or the child that's inside, or the different aspects of mindfulness that we go more deeply into. And lastly, I'm an investor and mentor at StartMate. I've been involved in StartMate since 2012. So yeah, this is my 10th year involved with them, and it's incredible to see not only how they've sort of progressed through, but how the whole ecosystem has progressed since the early days of the ecosystem. And so I can't believe, for example, that we have one of our venture funds, Blackbird, about to raise a $1 billion fund. One single fund that's $1 billion. It's mind-boggling to see, and really heartening to see how much the ecosystem has grown. What we're going to do today is I'm actually going to take you through 2 guided meditations, one slightly faster, sort of shorter, and one maybe a little bit longer. We're going to go through some theory in terms of parts of self, being mindful of different parts of self, and also some of the tips around applying, sort of micro doses, if you will, of mindfulness at work. And so it'll take roughly an hour or so to go through, maybe a little bit less. And then, of course, happy to take questions either along the way or at the end. Please feel free to ask questions as they arise. And so what I'm going to do first is just to talk you through the type of mindfulness meditation that I teach, which is a really super sort of simplified form. And so I'm going to talk you through this, but we're going to actually go through a guided meditation after I take you through some of it first. And then we're going to actually do the theory after doing the practice. Okay, so now the way that I'm going to sort of teach this, and I'll talk you through it as we do it, is that you'll just sit in your chair rather than cross-legged on the ground. I thought to make it super simple and super modern. And so, but you'd use your chair like a stool. So you wouldn't lean back on your chair, but you sort of sit in the sort of front part of your chair, using it like a stool. And then you'd have your back nice and straight, shoulders relaxed, palms facing upwards. You can have it on your palms on your laps. I have my palms clasped like this, but you could have it like this as well. And then when it's time, I'll let you know, and you would close your eyes or soften your eyes and have your chin slightly tucked in. And so hopefully it's a comfortable a posture for you. And the idea is that it's an easy posture, it's a comfortable posture that you can hold for long periods in case you wanted to. And essentially what this is all about fundamentally is breathing in and out gently, deeply and fully, and noticing the in-breath, noticing the out-breath. Now, there are different ways, of course, that you can do your breathing, and you don't have to do it this time, but I just wanted to share with you the sort of different types of breathing. There's thoracic breathing, where you sort of imagine that you're breathing into your chest, right? Thoracic breathing. And then there's another type of breathing called diaphragmatic breathing, where you're sort of lowering your diaphragm and almost imagining that you're breathing into your belly. Of course, from a physiological perspective, that's not actually happening. But if you can imagine, like, breathing into your belly and the sort of your belly sort of inflating like a balloon on the in-breath and deflating that balloon in your belly on the out-breath. This is a form of breathing that maybe folks who are a little bit more experienced with meditation would do, because it allows them to breathe even more deeply. Okay, so we don't need to do it today, but I just want to raise it for your attention so that you're aware of these different types of breathing. But for our purposes today, you would just breathe like you normally do. And I'll talk you through it as we do it. And essentially, that's it. Sitting, breathing, and being, and giving yourself permission to simply sit and breathe. And the idea is that, what we're doing here is we're slowing down and noticing the breath and noticing the fine details of this present moment. It's almost like, that sort of timeline as you zoom in and you see the sort of microseconds. I don't know if you've used those sort of editing tools, but sort of zooming in so that you notice the fine details of this present moment. Because when we're zooming around in life, those moments can pass us by and we don't notice them quite so much. And there are a number of anchors that we use in order to anchor us into that present moment. And one of the biggest anchors is the breath. And in mindfulness, another significant anchor is your body. And so what I'm going to be doing as a part of the guided meditation that I'll take you through is help you focus on your breath and then help you focus on your body. I don't know if you've noticed this before, but I certainly noticed this, almost on a daily basis. I feel like a floating mind cloud, going from one call to the next call to the next, or one meeting to the next meeting to the next. I almost don't even feel my body. In fact, to the extent that it could be 5 p.m. in the afternoon, and I haven't even had lunch yet, and I haven't even noticed. Okay, sort of living in this, in the mind, living in this space. And so, being able to then ground back in the body brings me back to the present moment. And so I use that, and, within mindfulness practice, it's commonly used as a way to ground yourself back into the present. And if you can do that, then you can allow your thoughts, the thoughts that you have in your mind, to simply come and go. What I've found out after many years of practice, of course, is that it's actually impossible to stop your thoughts. It's probably one of the most common questions that I have. Oh, Peter, I'm not sure I can meditate because I can't actually stop my thoughts. How do you do that? And I tell them, well, you know what? I can't do that either. I think that it's impossible to stop those thoughts. It's just like if I tell you not to think of elephants, what's the first thing you're going to think of? Well, you know the answer to that. Instead, imagine that your thoughts are just like, thoughts sort of rushing by like a stream. They're just coming and going like a stream, and there's no need to try to stop your thoughts. Instead, think of it like, as another analogy, trains coming and going from the train station. You're on Central Station and, or Flinders, right? And it's sort of, the trains are coming and going, and you don't need to get on any one of those trains. You don't need to go down any one of those rabbit holes, such as, what am I going to have for dinner tonight? Did I leave the iron on? Why did I say that in the last meeting? Oh no, I embarrassed myself. And then you sort of go down this rabbit hole of ending completely somewhere else. And it's okay to do that, by the way. It's so normal and human to do that. And in meditation, when you do that, simply take the next breath, let that thought go, and come back to, Central Station, come back to the breath, and come back to the here and now, and let the sort of story of the rabbit hole of wherever it's led you, see if you can give yourself permission simply to let it go. Make sense so far? Relatively straightforward. I'm seeing some nods. Okay, good. The next thing that we're going to do in the guided meditation that I'm going to take you through is to do a practice of gratitude. And I always find that, when I use this in my sort of in my practice, and it always gives me a wonderful sense of energy and also, context as well. Oftentimes, particularly from a founder's perspective, we have so little to work from. We're trying to eke out as much with all that we have. And so it's really easy to focus on what we don't have. And so this practice of acknowledging all the things that we do have can oftentimes give us energy. And so it also sort of arises another principle here, which is I can't make you feel what you don't already feel. All I'm doing as a part of this gratitude part of the meditation is imagine that there is a radio station, okay, inside called gratitude, okay, and it's sort of, and I know that you always feel grateful for, your family and your friends and your colleagues, but it's just weird for us to be talking about that 100% of the time, even though we feel it most of the time. But imagine that there is a radio channel inside that is sort of broadcasting channel gratitude. All I'm doing as a part of the meditation is turning the radio dial to that station so that you acknowledge the gratitude that is there. Again, I can't make you feel what you don't already feel. I'm just making you more aware of it as a part of or more mindful of it as a part of the meditation that we do. Okay. Now, people often ask me, how does it feel when you sit and meditate? And the closest I can sort of come to describing it, at least for myself, is it's kind of like resting in the cool shade of a tree. I often get asked, why do you still meditate after all of this time, right? Haven't you done it enough? And my answer to them is like, why do you still go to the beach? Right? It's like, because it feels good. It's helpful. It gives me energy. And so it's not like a task per se for me to do. It's something that I feel that I would like to do. And in terms of the benefits, what I've noticed is that the benefits are almost like compound interest in a way. You kind of put a few pennies away each time and it just layers on top of itself. And after a while, what I've noticed is that within the working context, for example, I will tend to feel more calm most of the time, no matter what may arise. And I get the sort of feedback that that calmness can have a positive impact on others as well. I mean, there are other benefits also, but I think that's probably the biggest one that I've come across. So that is a part of the sort of quick theory, and we're going to go into some practice now, if you're ready for it. So if you're cool with that, let's sit towards the front of your chair, feet on the floor, back is nice and straight, shoulders relaxed, palms facing upwards in your lap, and closing your eyes, breathing in and out, in through the nose, out through the mouth, in and out, gently, deeply and fully, listening to my voice, and breathing in and out, allowing thoughts in the mind to simply come and go. Right now, all you need to do is sit and breathe and be, and notice the breath, noticing the cool of the air as you breathe in and the warmth of the air as you breathe out. Breathing in and out, gently, deeply and fully in your own time. Breathing in and out, allowing thoughts in the mind to simply come and go, just like trains coming and going from the train station. Settling into the breath and settling into this present moment, allowing yourself to let go of thoughts of the future and thoughts of the past. They will still be there in time to come. Instead, right here and now, give yourself permission to just breathe. Back is nice and straight. Adjust if you need to. Shoulders relax. Breathing in and out, gently, deeply and fully, noticing the breath. Very good. And as you're breathing in and out, see if you can notice the muscles in your forehead, and see if you can give permission for those muscles to relax. Noticing the muscles around your eyes, your cheeks, your chin, and your jaw, and giving permission for those muscles to relax. as you're breathing in and out. Back is nice and straight, shoulders relaxed, allowing thoughts in the mind to simply come and go. Right now, all you need to do is sit and breathe with nothing else to do. Noticing the muscles in your neck and shoulders and giving permission for those muscles to relax. And noticing the aches and pains that might be there in your back, your upper back, the middle of your back, all the way down to your lower back. And see if you can acknowledge any aches or pains or knots that could be there as you're breathing in and out, noticing the breath and noticing the body. Noticing your arms by your side, the tops of your arms all the way down to your elbows, all the way down to your fingertips as you're breathing in and out. And noticing your chest and your belly. See if you can notice them rising and falling with each breath. Noticing the chair and where the chair is supporting you. See if you can feel that chair underneath you, holding you up as you're sitting and breathing. And noticing your legs, your thighs, your knees, your shins, your calves, your ankles as you're breathing in and out, allowing thoughts in the mind to come and go. And noticing your feet, the tops of your feet, and the bottom of your feet, where your feet are touching the floor. And as you're breathing in and out, see if you can even press gently against the floor 2 or 3 times with the balls of your feet to feel the floor there underneath you. Very good. You're sitting and breathing, breathing in and out, gently, deeply, and fully, noticing the breath and noticing the body, this physical space in which you're occupying right here and now. Very good. And now sending this message as you're breathing in and out, sending this message from your heart, not from your mind, but from your heart to the people in your life. With each breath, see if you can hold in your heart one person and then the next person and then the next, and send to them this message. Thank you. Thank you for your place in my life. I wish for you peace and happiness. Thank you. Thank you for your place in my life. I wish for you peace and happiness. With each breath, one person, and then the next person, and then the next. Thank you. Thank you for your place in my life. I wish for you peace and happiness. And now sending this message from your heart to yourself, to your whole body. I wish for myself peace and happiness. I allow myself to receive all the support that the world is wanting to give to me. Three more deep breaths. 3 more deep breaths. And then gently, in your own time, opening your eyes. and coming back to the room. Very good. You might want to stretch. I like to stretch after a meditation. Wow. Hey, you all did super, super well. I don't know how long we took there, but it was, I don't know, it was like maybe 7-8 minutes there. Is that right? Something like that. 7 minutes. Maybe just a quick sort of check, did it feel like a long time? How do you feel? Maybe just to start off with, Dev, how do you feel?
I feel a lot brighter, first of all, after closing my eyes and just like reopening. But yeah, I definitely feel a lot lighter. And that's why guided, I think meditation slightly helps, because then like your instructions are like on point, and this is what is happening right now.
Oh,
So
very, very
yeah,
cool.
thanks.
Yeah. Anybody else want to share? How do you physically feel right now?
Can I share how I feel? This is Corinne here. Hi,
Hi,
Peter.
Corinne.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
I always have this challenge that when I do meditation, obviously a guided one, I don't know whether it's because I always feel tired, but then always doze off easily. I don't know whether it's a good thing or not really. I mean, it's meant to be like staying alert and awake. But I found that is always the case. Maybe
It's
I was
super normal.
very, very relaxed.
It's super normal, Karen. There's nothing bad about it at all. In fact, early on, that's a very common thing to happen. It happened with me too early on. So nothing to be alarmed about. But you're right. I mean, after a certain point of time of practicing, it feels more like having maybe a glass of a cup of tea. How the tea sort of, you're kind of alert and awake with the tea, but not sort of overly, awake, that type of feeling. That kind of, just explained to you an analogy of kind of like what it feels like for me. So it's, it evolves beyond, that sleepiness. And if you're tired, by the way, it's very natural to feel sleepy. So it's totally, totally normal. But yes, it's a very common thing early on to sort of feel sleepy, and that's totally okay.
I was
and there'll be times when you feel sleepy.
almost go back to my bed
now. Well, there's more to come, so please stay if you can. Any other thoughts, folks, before we go on to a little bit more theory to share with you? Yay, nay? Okay.
Hi, Peter. I felt a lot of love in my heart. I love that practice of giving gratitude and visualizing your heart being the area where you're expressing it, rather than through like your mind or your voice. So I could feel like this energy expanding in my chest as I thought about each person that means so much to me. Sorry.
So cool. No worries at all. And yeah, I mean, the idea is that you're already feeling these things, and I'm just tuning your mindfulness or your awareness to that which you already feel. And so I do find that part of the practice often gives me wonderful energy. And so maybe at times when you might be low on energy, that could be something useful to do or helpful to do. And to build it into your own practice. Wonderful. Okay, there's more to share, so let me continue on with a little bit more theory, and then we'll actually do one more guided meditation before this session is out. Now, in theory, what we're doing as a part of, we are just sitting and breathing, by the way, but at the same time, we're doing much more than that. What we're doing is we're acknowledging our breath, the thing that gives us life. On a moment-to-moment basis, we're acknowledging our body. We're acknowledging that this is the vessel in which we're experiencing the world. And even though we're not sort of engaged in our thinking, we're acknowledging the mind. We know that it's there, but we're not fully consumed by the mind. We sort of acknowledge that there is mind and that there are thoughts, but those thoughts are coming and going. And with gratitude, we're acknowledging the heart. We're acknowledging what is here. And so when we do this and we get to a point of stillness, it's almost like, adult settling process. You know how we settle a baby, with feeding and then burping and then, patting to sleep. Well, this is the adult settling process of getting to stillness by, focusing on the breath, focusing on the body, focusing on gratitude. And why is that helpful? It's helpful because when we're still, we might be able to hear what could be going on in parts of our body. going on in our heart, going on in our gut, our belly, our gut instinct, because typically those things are on volume number 2 and our mind is on volume 11. And so if we can get into a place where we are still, our mind will seem a little bit more quiet, and we might be able to hear what our gut instinct is trying to tell us about something, for example. Or there might be something, I'm sure you've noticed this before, whereby you might have a knot in your back or something like that, and you go through the whole day, you don't even notice it. But then when you're sort of at home and in bed, you're like, oh, there's this knot in my back. It's been there the whole day, but you just haven't noticed it at all. And so this is a way of sort of, connecting back to our body, our heart, our gut instinct, our sense of self. And when you are in a space of stillness, you might be able to notice some other things as well. Because what I've noticed when I'm still is that there is this spaciousness that is inside when I slow down, a spaciousness that is there when I'm still, and a spaciousness that can be there in letting go of certain things. And so you might be surprised how much spaciousness there is inside when you are curious about it and are still enough to experience it. And so, these are the sort of practices to help us get to that stillness so that we can notice the spaciousness. We might even notice, and this is a picture of he's 17 years old now, but this is when he was, I think, 3 or 4. You might even notice the child that is still within us, that part of us that is curious, that part of us that wants to play, wants to build, wants to create. I'm sure as founders, you connect to this part of yourself quite well. And that child that's inside typically is, relatively quiet, is only heard when we are relatively still. And that child might want to be heard, might be afraid from time to time. It might need to be looked after. And so, getting to a place of mindfulness where you can connect with that part of self, that curious part of self, that playful part of self, is one of the things that I do in the sort of mindfulness teaching that I do. Of course, there are other parts of self as well. And I'm sure you all have noticed this part as well. I certainly do. It's sort of running 24/7 for me, the inner critic, right? That part of yourself that's saying, I'm not good enough. I don't deserve this. I'm not as good as, I think Dev mentioned it before, other folks are all closing their capital raises. Why aren't I, doing that? I'll only be happy when I do better. I haven't done enough to deserve happiness, right? I'm sure you've heard of this part of yourself, this program that's sort of in the mind that's sort of, constantly, judging. And so, in mindfulness, what we do is we simply acknowledge that part is there. In fact, if you sit with it, you might find that it's there for a reason. It might be just trying to help in the only way that it knows how. And it might not realize that, as a part of that, there is some damage that it can do as well. But at the heart of it, there's a message that it's trying to send. And with a sense of curiosity, if you sit with it, you might hear what that message is. And there's nothing to fix, but you simply acknowledge what is there. And that's the sort of deeper work that I do with various founders. The other part of it is simply spaciousness in letting go of rejection of the past, yearning for the past, whether, pushing away the past or trying to hold on to the past, or trying to grasp the future and bring it forward as quickly as possible, or fears of the future, pushing it away as much as possible. You might notice these emotions that are there when you sit in stillness. And the idea with all of this work is to bring you back to right here and now, this present moment, because in reality, you can only really do in the present moment. Even planning, you can only do in the present moment. Otherwise, you're planning to plan. You can choose to let go in the present moment. You can choose to allow yourself to exhale in the present moment rather than waiting to exhale when I do this or if I need that or whatever it might be. You might choose to renew yourself along the way, along the journey in the present moment. And you can choose to simply breathe right here and now. So these are the sort of deeper concepts that we go through in the sort of more advanced mindfulness work that I do. I just wanted to bring that to your, to your awareness and to your attention. So the rabbit hole goes a lot deeper, but at the end of the day, what are you fundamentally doing? You're just sitting and breathing. And there's nothing to solve for, but there is benefit in simply doing just that. And so let me see, can you see me at the moment, by the way, whilst I'm presenting? Yep. So I'm holding this glass here, right? And imagine that I'm holding this glass for, a few minutes. It's fine. It's light. I can handle it. But if I'm holding this glass for, a month, 2 months, 3 months, it starts to get a little bit heavy. And what we're doing in this sort of basic mindfulness is simply putting that glass down for 5 minutes. And even though the problems, the ideas, the concepts that make up this glass don't go away after that 5 minutes, I actually feel refreshed or more refreshed after having put it down for only a few minutes. Whatever problems, whatever issues, they will still be there in time to come. Okay, but let's see if we can take time out to refresh ourselves, to renew ourselves, even for 5 minutes. It's almost like a mini holiday where you don't have to think about the capital raise, where you don't have to think about, the next person that you need to hire, or the next build for the app, or whatever it might be. And there is value even just in doing that. Makes sense so far? Yeah, some nods. Okay, cool. All right. So maybe a little bit of mindfulness at work. Some of the practices that I sort of teach for those that I work with. So what I encourage you to do, if you can do this, is just see if you can take maybe 5 or 6 deep breaths in between your calls or meetings. See if that's possible for you to do. And all that does is helps you recenter from the last meeting into this meeting right here and now. So you're in the present moment with the person that you're with, for this particular Zoom call or meeting. Maybe just try that and see how that works for you. 5 or 6 breaths doesn't take very long. It takes only a few seconds. But the way that you want to breathe is not like a gladiator that's about to go into the Colosseum. You don't want to you don't want to do that sort of breathing. You want to breathe as if you had all the time in the world. Of course, you're not going to take 20 minutes to do 5 deep breaths, but just imagine that you had as much time as you needed. And imagine that the breath is like water nourishing a dry riverbed, right? As you breathe, and see if you can take 5 breaths like that. And see how that helps to center you from one call to the next. See if you can bring it into your daily practices, kind of like micro dose of mindfulness. Another mindfulness technique that I teach is, within meetings, within the sort of meetings themselves, sometimes they can get a little bit heightened, right? There's argument, there's conflict, and the conflict kind of sounds like, right, kind of builds up, and it's like fast, it moves really, really fast. Okay, see if you can, in those moments, if you can slow down, and you slow down by slowing down your breathing. And the benefit of doing this is, I'm sure you'll find this out as you sort of put this into practice, is it gives space between the stimulus, the push on the other end, and your response. And what it can do is can help to take the heat out of some of these meetings. Now, you might choose to push back in any case, right? You might choose to maybe see what perspective that other person has. They might choose to see it on your end, but you give more space and time between the stimulus and response. And so if you do that, I think you'll start to notice that actually there might be other choices available. And it's absolutely fine. Whatever choice you make it doesn't even matter. What matters is that you're making a choice rather than somebody pushes a button and you don't even think about it, you just automatically push back. I certainly do that myself. And it's normal. It's sort of what we've been trained to do over many, many decades. It's our sort of survival mechanism. But I wonder if there could be a broader range of choices if you just give yourself a little bit more time between stimulus and response. Okay, and I mean, it's hard to do. It's easy to say, hard to do. But see if, you might have sort of smaller ways to practice. It doesn't have to be like, the big negotiation. It could be just a small thing, and see what happens when you experience that. And the last thing that that sort of I get the folks that I work with to do is just to check in with yourself during the course of the day and simply ask yourself this question: how am I feeling right now? How am I physically feeling right now? And see if you can answer that question almost like a reflex, like the doctor has that, reflex hammer thing that, they put onto your knee. Kind of like, how am I feeling right now? I'm hangry. How am I feeling right now? I'm tired. How am I feeling right now? I'm thirsty. How am I feeling right now? I'm happy, right? The answer almost doesn't matter. But the fact that you're asking yourself the question is a way of you grounding yourself back into the here and now, into your body, right? Rather than being lost inside of the mind. I mentioned before, there might be times in the day that, I'm kind of lost with what I'm doing, and it's 5 o'clock and I haven't even had lunch yet, right? And my body feels kind of like numb. I don't even feel my body, okay? And this is a way to bring yourself back to the here and now, to ground yourself back in the body. How am I feeling right now? Bang, kind of like, you're feeling out your body as a part of that process, right? So that helps you to ground in the body. Again, another form of microdose mindfulness, if I can put it that way, so you can sort of quickly ground yourself. Cool? So these are some little practices, mini practices, if you will, that hopefully you can just try out. Just, and I'll share this presentation. I think I've shared it before as well with the cohort, but I'll share this with you all, and hopefully, as you flick through it, sort of reminder. I mean, I've got some folks who sort of have like a rubber band around their wrists to remind themselves, oh, I've got to ask myself, how am I feeling right now? Through the course of the day, once or twice, 3 times a day, whatever it might be. After a while, you don't need it anymore. You just sort of, it just becomes a habit. But hopefully that's something that is that is helpful for you. Let me just pause there for a moment to take in any questions, and then we're going to do one more guided meditation, maybe a little bit longer this time, and then maybe take some final Q&A after that. Just to check in if any questions at this point in time in relation to any of those topics that I've just taken you through. No? Sounds all good?
Peter, I
Yeah.
just have one question.
Yeah.
I actually didn't can you give an example of how do you actually give yourself space between stimulus and response? Because aren't we actually chasing the response, whatever that meeting might be, but we want to get there, whatever the outcome is? Yeah.
I'm doing it right now. You're awaiting a response on my end, and I'm giving myself time to consider what it is that you're asking, and I'm slowing down the pace of what we're doing. And of course, this is not something that you do all the time. It would be odd. But, you kind of, when you're in an argument, there's a push on one side, and there's a push, and that push is waiting from an energetic level, waiting for another push to oppose that push. And actually, if you allow that push to happen and just let it sit in the air for a while and not oppose it, it doesn't mean that you agree with it. You're just considering it, contemplating it, observing it. And what you do to use as your anchor is the breath. If you slow down your breathing, you won't be, or I won't be, maybe potentially triggered by, whatever is being said. And it might be something really horrible that's being said to me. And rather than automatically, without thinking, pushing back, and then that just escalates and escalates and escalates more and more and more. I'd be like, okay, what do I want to do here? How do I move this conversation forward? How do I use the energy that's coming in to maybe move us both to the side? Maybe I choose to push directly back. I do that as well, but it's a choice. And that's different from just push, 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 push. All right. And I'm not saying not to get to an outcome. What I'm saying is in the micro moments of the argument, right? In that moment, if you give yourself a little bit more space, a little bit more time, slow down a little bit, you might find that when you're not in fight or flight, which is the natural, sort of a reaction from the mind, you might find that there's more space for maybe alternatives, right? And at the same time, maybe not. Maybe it's like, okay, sorry, this is something that I just can't, I'm not with this at all. I'm sorry, no. And that's okay as well, because that's equally a choice. Yeah. And so I think the practice here is just to see if you can give yourself a little bit more space and time in order to, give yourself the opportunity to make a choice.
Thanks for that.
Cool.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
So just before a meeting, I'm just taking my example. Before a meeting, like say 1 minute or 2 minutes before a meeting, I'm very anxious of how the meeting goes, right? But when the meeting actually happens, I'm all confident and I'm happy about how the meeting goes. Just that initial, just a minute or two before the meeting, I'm very anxious and my palms go sweaty. And, is there any workaround or like some sort of a meditation towards, how you could work around this?
Well, I mean, I don't know of a workaround, but there are certain times when I feel that anxiousness too. Maybe it's a big, presentation in front of a lot of people, for example. And what I do in that instance is a couple of things. One is I acknowledge that's how I'm feeling. So I don't try to push the anxiousness down, like, don't feel anxious, don't feel anxious. It's like, okay, the body is feeling anxious right now. I'm feeling anxious right now. I just acknowledge that that's what's going on. Okay. At the same time, I breathe. I allow myself to breathe gently, deeply, and fully, just like we practiced a moment ago. And what I find is that if I anchor myself to the breath, both things can be happening at the same time. I can have a part of me that is feeling anxiousness and also a part of me that is calm. And so that can help me get through that period. I can't, I've figured out, at least for myself, that I can't stop the anxiousness, but I can acknowledge that it's there and I can live with it, and I don't get overtaken by the anxiousness. So imagine like anxiousness, it can be like this big sort of, circle that's, some folks say that you're in your feelings, right? You're just totally in your feelings and you're sort of fully encapsulated by that anxiousness. Or it can be in a box, and the box is here. And it's one part of what's going on, but it's not everything that's going on. And so I find that when I'm doing that, it becomes one thing amongst many things rather than the big thing that is overtaking my entire body. Yeah, and your breath can be a super good tool to help you in those moments. Yeah, so
I don't have Peter's expertise, but I know exactly, I have exactly that emotion that you have before a meeting. And what Peter's talking about, I think, has been useful, but what I have found incredibly useful, and it really was shocking when I was a presence of mind to do it, was box breathing.
Box breathing, yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, box breathing, yes.
But I don't know whether it distracts you or it gets you to breathe normally or breathe deeply. I don't know what it is, but I would go from kind of like nervous, high intensity to much calmer.
Yeah.
So Peter, I don't know why. You might understand like why that, but for me, I have found it to be magical to relax right before a really big meeting. Because when you're in the meeting, then I don't feel nervous. But it's that before that really gets me amped up and nervy.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, Susan. I don't know exactly how it works, but what happens is when you do this technique called box breathing, which is another way of breathing, it slows down your heart rate. And so as that happens, you'll become more calm. And so, worth looking it up. It's better for you to look it up, and you can, in fact, there's some YouTube that will show you how to do it. It's a relatively simple technique. It's sort of, a way of breathing. You sort of count to 1, 2, 3, 4, and you hold your breath in different parts of it. But that box breathing, yes, that's what it does. It slows down your heart rate, and that's what makes you feel more calm. And you can use that breathing, or there are a number of other breathing techniques. Whatever can help you from a breathing perspective, slow down your heart rate. It will make you feel more calm. And the other thing is, what can make you feel sort of less calm is trying to say, I shouldn't. Like, I shouldn't be anxious. I shouldn't, I shouldn't this, I shouldn't that. Don't worry about should, right? I have a mantra, there is no should. Okay, there just is. And so if you're feeling anxious, okay, I acknowledge that's how I'm feeling right now. Okay, cool. Now what, right? What else? Okay, I can handle it. Okay, and so what you want to do is in those moments, acknowledge that there is anxiousness there. You know, there's no need to try to squash it or hide from the fact that it's there. Okay, it's there. And at the same time, I'm going to breathe. Whether it's box breathing or any other type of breathing technique, allow yourself to breathe. The sort of mental image that I have in my mind in those moments is I'm allowing my whole body to breathe, almost as if my whole body is breathing. And then that really helps to calm me. Cool. Thank you for sharing that. Great question and great, great concept that you brought in as well, Susan. Awesome. Okay. Now, any other questions? Because I think it's time for us to move to our guided meditation, if you all are ready for it. Yes, I'm seeing some nods. So if you're ready, let's go again. So sitting at the front of your chair, using it like a stool, feet flat on the floor, back is nice and straight. Shoulders relaxed, palms facing upwards in your lap, eyes closed, breathing in and out. Gently, deeply and fully, in and out in your own time. You're relaxed, but alert and aware, settling into the breath and settling into this present moment. Noticing the cool of the air as you breathe in and the warmth of the air as you breathe out. And allowing thoughts in the mind to simply come and go. Right now, all you need to do is sit and breathe and be. Back is nice and straight, shoulders relaxed, breathing in and out, gently, deeply and fully in your own time. In this moment right now, as you're sitting and breathing, you are safe, you are warm, you have everything that you need. See if you can allow yourself to let go of thoughts of the future and thoughts of the past. They will still be there in time to come. Instead, right here and now, give yourself permission to just breathe with nothing else to do. Breathing in and out, gently, deeply, and fully in your own time. Let the air nourish you just like water nourishing a dry riverbed as you're breathing in and out, allowing thoughts in the mind to simply come and go. Back is nice and straight, shoulders relaxed, breathing in and out, noticing the breath and noticing the body. See if you can notice as you're breathing in and out, the muscles around your forehead, around your eyes, your cheeks, your jaw, your ears, and giving permission for those muscles to relax as you're breathing in and out. Noticing the muscles around your neck and your shoulders, and seeing if you can give permission for those muscles to relax as you're breathing in and out. Noticing your back, your upper back, down to the middle of your back, all the way down to your lower back, and see if you can notice any knots or aches or pains that might be there in your back as you're breathing in and out. Allowing thoughts in the mind to simply come and go, noticing your arms by your side, your upper arms all the way down to your elbows, your forearms, your wrists, your palms, all the way through to your fingertips as you're breathing in and out. and noticing your chest and your belly, and seeing if you can notice your chest and your belly rising and falling with each breath that you take. Back is nice and straight, shoulders relaxed, breathing in and out, and noticing the chair underneath you and where it is holding you up. And see if you can notice your legs, your thighs, your knees, your shins, your calves, your ankles as you're breathing in and out, noticing the breath and noticing your body, this physical space in which you're occupying right here and now. And as you're breathing in and out, noticing your feet, the tops of your feet and the bottom of your feet, where your feet are touching the floor. Sitting, breathing, being, noticing the breath, noticing the body, this physical space in which you're occupying right here and now, with nothing else to do except to sit and breathe. See if you can give yourself permission to just do that right here and now. Breathing in and out. Back is nice and straight. Shoulders relaxed. Very good. And now imagining that inside of your heart, there is a candle. And as you're breathing in and out, imagine that candle shining brighter and brighter and brighter, shining its light into the world with each breath. Allowing thoughts in the mind to simply come and go. You're sitting, you're breathing, you're exactly where you're meant to be, doing exactly what you're meant to be doing right here and now. Imagining that there is a candle inside of your heart, a candle that is burning brighter and brighter with each breath that you take. Imagine that candle is shining its light into the night sky, beyond the sky, and reaching into the stars. See if you can notice the immense spaciousness that is there. See if you can notice the immense spaciousness that is inside. Five more deep breaths. 5 more deep breaths, as if you had all the time in the world to take these 5 deep breaths. Very good. Very gently, very, very gently in your own time, opening your eyes and coming back to the room. Very good. Very good. You might want to stretch just like we did before. I always like to stretch after a meditation. And if you've got a glass of water, maybe have a sip of water in case, you're a bit thirsty. Sometimes I get like that after a meditation as well. Now, I was going to go for a little bit longer, but I realized that I've actually come to time, and I need to make my way into the next event that I'm going to. But I'm happy to take a few minutes of Q&A in case there are any questions that you might have. And hopefully you get the idea here. There's this sort of process that we go through to settle into the breath first of all and slow down. And then we settle into the body. We're noticing the body from top to toe. And that in mindfulness is called body scan. It's a technique in mindfulness. And then, in the first meditation, we focused on gratitude. And in the second meditation, we focused on a sense of spaciousness that is there. And so, mindfulness or awareness, tuning your awareness to certain things, can sort of give you a sense of that which you might bypass on a daily basis when you're not mindful of those things. Cool. If I may, just a few sort of messages to yourselves as founders, before I sort of take some questions. Number one is, please, nourish yourself. We mentioned that this is a marathon at sprinting pace. So give yourself permission, give yourself time to look after yourself and nourish yourself, and be gentle with yourself. That inner critic is there, and it's powerful. Sometimes it's wild, and so see if you can find the space there to be gentle with yourself and look after yourselves in this in this difficult journey. Excellent. Well, I hope you found that useful, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have at this point in time.
I've got a quick question, Peter, just around kind of how to give this priority, because my struggle on this exercise was like, I could think about 5 other things that were taking priority basically on what I should be doing. And of course, I appreciate the benefits of this. And back on the day, I did a Vipassana course in India for the 10 days, which was, I absolutely felt the benefits of it after a little while. But it wasn't a practice that I was able to continue because the fight around priority. So any tips on kind of how to make this, how to give, in addition to giving yourself permission, but like how to really connect with that sense of importance, to something like this?
It's a great question. And so I would say, see if you can start small. Start small. It doesn't have to be a 10-minute meditation. It can be even a few breaths between meetings. And it does arise, a question does arise, right? I mean, if I can't give myself permission to take 30 seconds, to take a few deep breaths and help myself, what does it mean? What does that mean, right? And so I'm glad you called it out, because that's exactly what's going on. Do I give myself permission? And the way that I found that it works with founders in particular is, as I help myself, I help everybody around me. Because sometimes there's this guilt about, I should be doing other things, right? And so the way that I found it sort of resonate most with founders is actually, if I allow myself to look after myself, if I allow myself to time and space, permission to receive, then actually what I'm doing is I'm actually, giving myself permission and receiving that energy such that it can be helpful to everybody else around me. It's like the founder that never takes a break and can impact all the people around them in the company. It's like, actually, no, you're doing everybody else a favor by taking a break. And this is that, but on a micro level. And so maybe that type of changing and turning that thinking. So I allow myself to receive because it gives me the energy to continue to give to others.
That's great. Thank you. That's very helpful.
Welcome. Cool. Any other questions? Any questions that arise? No, well, good. Hopefully that was helpful for you. Some, simple tips that you can hopefully bring into your day-to-day, and a simple guided meditation. There are many others that you can find online. Of course, there are all those apps like Headspace and Calm that are super useful as well. And there's a bunch of free, guided meditations that you'll be able to find on YouTube as well. So, I encourage you, and I think you can find them at sort of all different sort of lengths. Some are like super short, a minute, 2 minutes. Some are like longer, 40 minutes, an hour. There's no right or wrong here. You just do what fits you best. Cool. All right. If there are no other questions, I might pass back to you, Dev. And thank you so much. It's been a delight to connect with you all, and hopefully you found that session helpful.
Thanks, Peter. That was definitely very helpful. And I resonate with Leo. It's just like we just feel like, oh, let me do like this 5 more tasks, and later I'll do it. And later sometimes I just don't feel like doing it. And rationally, like, we understand the benefits of it as well. It's like, oh, I should do this, and I like clarity of thoughts and this and that and etc. But one thing that has helped me is to just like it's more like I have incorporated it like exercise, which is like, oh, I get up, I brush my teeth, like I take a shower. It's just something that I have to do, and that is one of the tasks as well. And on my to-do list, I just tick it off. And I personally love to-do lists, so like I add everything to my to-do list. So yeah, but Peter, thank you so much. This was super helpful, and I'm sure like cohort has found a lot of value out of it as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Great to connect with you all, and have a great rest of your evening. And I'll send the presentation through so that the team has it and share it as well.
I'll share it on the Slack channel. Thanks so
Bye,
much.
folks. Bye.
See you later. Thank you so much, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this session. And yeah, if you guys have any question or anything, feel free to put it on Slack and stuff, and then connect it from there. See you guys.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye.